So, good afternoon, Speed Gaming viewers. My name is Tiru, and just like I did yesterday, it is my pleasure to once again welcome you all to ChristosOwen versus iiYoshii Game 2, attempt number 2. And no need to hit refresh, guys. This is not a VOD. After an amazing tie yesterday, we are back to try this one more time. We have the same runners, the same game mode, same terrific tracker, iiYoshii. We do have two changes for this attempt. First, of course, this is a brand new seed for a brand new day. And second, I'm joined on co-comms by the one and only Slim Kirby. Good afternoon, Kirby.
Yo, good afternoon, Tiru. Really looking forward to this game. As you said, the tie yesterday, my gosh, that was a very fun race to watch, and I'm sure it was fun to commentate. So, great to have you on board for this race. Maybe draw some parallels between the two seeds that you've seen, and yeah, it'll be fun. Two really amazing runners here.
Yeah, these are it's definitely a treat. Christos is obviously a classic runner and one of my personal favorites just because of his swag style. But iiYoshii has been putting up amazing gameplay, and obviously when you have one of the closest ties in the history of the tournament, that definitely speaks to iiYoshii's skill. So, and he already has a win in the column. So there's no way to predict what's coming up next. This is super hype.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that win that he has in the column there. iiYoshii has honestly not had anything but wins in the group and bracket stage combined, has not taken a single loss in one-on-one play yet. And he's the only runner in this tournament at this point who has that kind of going for him. So, you know, the tie that we had yesterday was like the first time I guess he technically didn't completely win. So, you know, he's definitely put in a lot of great work into this tournament, as you said.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great point. A lot of times, you know, you can look at runners that have long withstanding, like multi-year reputations, and give them the benefit of the doubt. But when you're looking at just the results matter, and iiYoshii has absolutely earned that reputation these past few months.
He really has, and we are getting the seed underway here. I did find a piece of heart at Link's house. Both of them going to check the Uncle Cave next. We also got a map check where we had 2 crystals in the light world and 1 pendant. The pendant was at Tower of Hera.
And my first sign that this is in fact a different seed from yesterday is that we got the magic pots instead of bombs on the tree pool prize, because otherwise
it's good to make sure.
Yeah, it's good to make sure they're both going to Uncle, so we haven't seen any route diversions yet.
Yeah. But looks like we're not going to get too much value here at the Uncle Cave, but that's okay, because they're just going to kind of refresh here, take a different start, going to go to the Sanctuary instead, or actually Christos is not going to do that. He's going to, I guess, go up through Kakariko from the south, which is something you will see from time to time, so we'll see if this kind of pays out for him, kind of using this more interesting route here.
Yeah, definitely. The advantage of this route is if you are able to farm for a bomb and, you know, you find a flute or a bottle on the race game, you can save a little bit of time. We found one there, and he's probably going to try to find at least a second one. Downside is it's a little bit slower than the north route if everything goes optimally.
Yeah, and you also kind of have to wonder, like, there comes that decision of, do you want to check the forest as well in addition to that? Because at that point, you're probably not going to check Lumberjack until later. So there is definitely a bit of kind of just wanting to make the right decision and kind of tailor your own decision to what the rest of the seed is going to be playing like.
Well, a full heart container on the race game, not going to have to go for that, but we are going to have to make this forest check you're talking about. iiYoshii's finding the bow there. That's our initial weapon and a very important progression item. So hopefully Christos will head up there.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to give basically the capability of beating Eastern, which is one of our crystals, and it's also, you know, kind of a Sphere 1 dungeon you can check. A lot of the items we can get from there from the get-go, so, you know, maybe something to consider. Do you go over there and complete Eastern while you're there, or, you know, you can always combine it later with Palace of Darkness if you so choose. It definitely makes for some interesting decision-making for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I missed with that chat pointed out is that the second bow was on the library. So
Yeah,
we
that's
actually
right.
have both of the progressive bows.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't get that other bow yet, but just knowing that it's there, that's honestly a pretty quick pickup, and I think would be worth going for if we do happen to get the boots late. So, yeah, definitely good to know for this seed.
Unfortunately, the southern route didn't pay off for Christos today. Had to farm bombs, no money to buy them. Yoshi, meanwhile, found 3 bombs at the mushroom location and was good to go for Kakariko. Found quite a few more, so definitely northern route was the route of the day.
Yeah, for sure. As we are checking out the well right now, got some rupees, got the blue boomerang. 3 more chests. Looks like Christos is heading over that way as well. Get the flippers, the flutes, and a green rupee.
3 blue items in a row: boomerang, flippers, and the flute. 2 of those are useful. Being able to activate the flute immediately is, of course, a plus.
I am a little disappointed that it wasn't another item, just the single rupee, because like both great items to get, especially this early, for sure.
Yeah, the flute's actually I was gonna say it doesn't really give either person a routing advantage because you know they're both probably going to flute down to do South Shore. Although Yoshi, I think tends to do the eastern area first. We saw that the last couple of races.
And you know, with getting that bow, that would honestly be a really good incentive to do the eastern area when right now. So that could very well be the possibility here as well.
Yeah, we'll have to keep in mind, and the runners will definitely have to keep in mind the logic regarding dark rooms in Eastern in case we do find progression locked behind the dark room. But simply as far as completion is concerned, the 3 items in Sashirala and the 3 guaranteed items in that crystal dungeon makes that a pretty good play. And given that Yoshi prefers that route to begin with, I do think that's pretty probable.
Yeah, and it's going to be just definitely a good motivator for him getting into this seed too. Like, I mean, you look at yesterday's race, which we know at this point was very, very close. Ended up in a tie for crying out loud. But you know, Yoshi actually did get into go mode first. He did kind of have the advantage going into the end game, but you know, Christos is not shy at all when it comes to execution. For like the past, he's done no major glitches runs. He's been playing this game for a long time. He's shown that he can make up the difference when it comes to this game. So, you know, kind of getting a good early advantage, or at least an advantage you can be happy with, is definitely going to be, I think, key for Yoshi to kind of keep his composure moving into this seed, especially after what happened yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really great example. We talk a lot in Randomizer about how much execution skill matters, and in general, if you make the wrong gamble and you go to a dungeon you don't need, then execution's not going to be able to recover you from a 5-minute loss. But like we saw yesterday, Christos was able to pick up 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there, little bit by little bit, and brought it to that 0-second tie. So once you're in go mode, it really does make a difference if it's close.
Okay, looks like we got another item here outside the dam, the ice rod. Only comes into play for one specific scenario that we don't even know is required yet, but definitely good to have in case we do know we need that, because it'll just save us from the very unfortunate ice rod hunts.
Now, one thing that both of our runners are still looking for is a sword, and that does remind me of an amazing play that Yoshi made yesterday, which was just an incredibly heads-up play, finding his required master sword in the Gan's Tower big chest, a place that you so rarely look, and it just worked out so brilliantly.
Let's see, Yoshi going to be fluting. Is he going to be fluting over? Yes, he is. He's going to be taking a slightly faster route to Ice Rod Cave. May not seem like much of a distance, but flute really does help, especially when we do not have those boots yet. So Gonna just use that as just kind of a way to get a little bit closer. Need to be careful of those crabs, though. They do too much damage in this game.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we don't have Zora money yet, so we're not going to be able to see that check, and that's probably going to push off the other Zora area checks. But given the early flippers, we might be inclined to see a hobo check and then swim over to Eastern if we do want to do Eastern. It's kind of a decent, semi-decent way to route those two locations together.
It does look like that is what Yoshi is thinking right now. So, yep, he's going to jump over here into the water of Lake Hylia, and he is swimming north. So yeah, I think that's actually a very good call on what we might be seeing from him here.
Yeah, that ladder that Yoshi just swam by lets you hop out and very quickly get over to Eastern. It's a little bit faster than a save and quit, especially with the increased save and quit time. Those 1 or 2 second increments, they do add up.
Yeah, they really do. And looks like Christos probably thinking the same thing. As we do pull off the Moon Pearl from the Hobo. That is going to be one of our Dark World items. And Christos is also going to be checking out the iiYoshii Island, just 10 arrows, so not worried about that. And iiYoshii's actually, I think, going to go for what he can of the Zora area right now.
Yeah, well, fortunately, Yoshi's checking the island as well as a quick check just to gain that knowledge, even despite it being a useless item that we will not be picking up. But that Moon Pearl's nice. That's one of our 3 required items for Dark World access, so we're making some progress towards the Dark World.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Waterfall Fairy Cave, get some half magic and just a single red rupee. And Christos is actually doing what we kind of thought iiYoshii was going to do. Going to be heading straight for the eastern area, not even going to bother with Zora right now.
Yeah, the Zora's check is a little bit difficult to justify because this is a kind of a long walk. You can't flute out of here, and we don't have the money, but we do find the gloves on the ledge. So, in hindsight, this trip paid off.
Yeah, that is a good reason to make this play now, definitely. Oh, and there's the final Dark World item inside Sahasrarla's closet. We get the hammer in addition to one of our 3 medallions as well.
That's very interesting. Yoshi will probably be heading over to that area as his very next check and getting that early Dark World access. The gloves lock so many things, so even if Christos doesn't want to head up to Zora before he has the money, he's going to run out of location, so it's probably not going to be something that he misses for too long.
Yeah, and even then, like, I'm just trying to think of like potential ways he can get that money, because honestly, like, you could almost look at that as a positive for him waiting, because this way he will have enough money to check the Zora item later if he potentially finds it in here. So that'll kind of give him kind of a different kind of advantage. So now Yoshi will have to make that decision later if he wants to go back or not.
Yeah, there's I mean, there aren't that many locations that can be holding enough rupees. You know, you would need a 300 or probably 2 300s in order to put you over the top. And I'm not sure if there's any ways you can do hula hand if you have the flippers, don't have the boots, and don't have the gloves. So
Right.
he just might not have any choice.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking in regards to that, because yeah, he'll need to go to the Zora area to get the glove to do the easy hula hand. So,
But he is in Eastern. There is a dark room in Eastern that has a bunch of blue crystals, but given the fact that it's in the dark, that would be pretty insane to go to just for money. But Christos is going to be able to, at a minimum, get 3 items in here and his first crystal. So this is still a valuable trip.
mm-hmm. And even if he finds like a 300 in here, like that'll definitely help enough, because I think there's like around like 90 or something, maybe even a little more rupees in that rupee room. So even if he just like gets a few of them and then warps out of there, which probably not warp out of there since he needs to be Armo still, but you know, he might be able to get enough just from that alone.
Yeah, I think a single 300 at this point would basically get him there. But Yoshi does find the hammer, so that's Dark World access. Yoshi immediately taking advantage of that, not bothering with Eastern, not bothering with it with sequence breaking Death Mountain. Not even sequence breaking, fluting the Death Mountain. Nothing. Immediately going to the Hype Cave check.
Makes me almost wonder if he was just kind of like, he does. Oh wait, first map check. Okay, pendants on the top with skull will be in the green, and the other two crystals. The red crystals are on the left in Mire and Thieves Town. So that is our map for the rest of this seed.
That's a pretty nice red crystal layout. Thieves Town is a very easy dungeon that Yoshi can already full clear and get that crystal, and we just need the mitts, and Boots or Hookshot and Cane. Once we can finish Mire, maybe we can even get that dream route of Pyramid Fairy and Initial Pyramid check loop together.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, as we do happen to find the book, and I believe also the mushroom inside Hype Cave there. Two items that's, hard to know if they'll be required, because, book can block desert, but it can also block some other item locations. Mushroom obviously blocks an item location, but, good to find those now. You can kind of route those in as you're going through the seed as you see fit, so.
That's definitely a tough call. I mean, the book will unlock the desert ledge, and you can check a Genius Cave while you're there, but you also run into desert being boots locked, and of course not having a fire source yet to complete the dungeon, even if it isn't boots locked, and no mirror to check the Bombos tablet. Definitely it's a questionable item of value with what we have at the moment.
Yeah, very true. Christos does make it through the dark room, decided not to really go for those rupees, which understandable. He did pick up some red ones from the ropes, though, so that's kind of nice. Or not ropes, but popes or whatever.
So Yoshi making the big brain play here, checking the Catfish early. I don't have any empirical data to support this, but just from the races that I've commentated and watched, which has been quite a few, Catfish seems to have disproportional value this particular version. So just the last night's race with Jed, it was the last location. So hopefully this will be some payoff for Yoshi.
And nice quick kill of Armos for Christos. Gets his first crystal. He is done with Eastern, as we are going to see what's going to be on Catfish today. What do we got? Just a piece of heart. So it's one of those scenarios where, you go to Catfish when he doesn't have something, but when he does have something, you never go to him. So that's the meme with Catfish, apparently.
Yeah, there's definitely a measure of confirmation bias in that. When your last location in Catfish, it's obviously going to have progression every time.
Exactly. I don't know how he does it. He finds a way every single time.
But Yoshi using the flute to turn in that mushroom immediately is very, very convenient. Yoshi, I watched a race. It was either the game 1 or the game 2 of Yoshi, where he turned the mushroom in and then hookshot it over and did graveyard ledge because he had all the equipment. Saved his green transition. Really interesting routing. Obviously, we can't do it now, but just an example of the way he thinks.
Yep, and meanwhile, we do see Christos going for the Spectacle Rock item. It was another one of our medallions. And, looking at our crystal layout, because it is Bombos, the Fire Rod may not be required in this seed.
That is a very good point. The Bombos medallion will let us complete Ice Palace without the Fire Rod. We may not need it if we don't need to complete Skull Woods. And while Fire Rod can be needed in Ganon's Tower, it's also possible to bomb jump past those areas.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, they very well could have a Fire Rodless seed. Still a lot to go before we can make that statement completely, but, it is definitely something to think about.
So I'm interested in seeing Yoshi's routing today. What we saw yesterday's race was just crazy, where we did not see Yoshi dip into Thieves Town at all. No Skull Woods, no Thieves Town, not even these locations in Village of Outcasts. And it cost him a Master Sword progression for most of the game, but he's beelining right for C-shaped house. Let's see if today has a sword.
Nope, just a red rupee in there. Christos going to be checking out the front of Escape. I think as far as information, we know that the map was in the back part of Escape, so still have to find that small key. Small key could end up being in the Dark Cross room, so that's probably something Christos is going to want to potentially see here as he's going through this.
Yeah, Yoshi finding the hook shot in one of these first 4 chests in Thieves Town, that's going to open up all of the Light World Death Mountain, including, Pendant Hera, the Ether Tablet, and Spike Cave access. So that is a very important find. Christos is doing a lot of checks short of that Zor's Ledge, which has the glove, and he's going to run out of locations that are glove locked pretty soon. But he did find our first bottle of the game.
That will be the Sick Kid check. Gonna get some more Thieves Town checks in a second. There's the compass. And there is the powder.
Powder is a very nice item to find, especially right after you've turned in your mushroom and you no longer have the ability to do a fake powder. Getting the actual powder can come in handy. And with only 6 hearts, it might become useful as just a restorative convenience item in this dungeon. This can be a dangerous dungeon.
Yeah, and there's honestly a lot of very timely anti-fairies placed around this dungeon too. There's like one coming up in the what's known as the Hellway room, and you got that bunny beam you can use them on in the cell rooms. A lot of good place to restore health if you kind of get beaten up a bit. Just Sick Kid paying off with 10 arrows, so Christos' locations are getting narrow and narrow. He might have to make that play to Zora very soon, and has not really been getting a lot of rupees to justify heading straight there.
Yeah, he's checking the desert area, but doesn't have the book that Yoshi does, so can't actually go into the dungeon. This is just information about the ledge, and we saw a trash item there. But this is our first Aegina's Cave check. Aegina's Cave, definitely one of those locations that you don't do by itself unless you're desperately trying to avoid an Agate Tower seed. Yeah,
really. Oh, and not the item you want to find from that either, just a single arrow.
That is a very insulting item to be in Aegina's Cave.
Yeah, really.
Like, you came all the way here for 1 arrow? Seriously?
You came all the way there, did like 3 extra screen transitions to get there, and you pretty much have to save and quit because it's just slightly faster than walking out of the cave. So it's not a fun item or fun location to not really get anything at.
Yeah, Christos is checking the mountain, using the boomerang, because we don't have a sword, so using the boomerang to do this old man rescue. It's a little bit harder with the boomerang. It's much easier with the sword, but he's still going to be able to pull it off. This is 1 sequence broken item. After this, all he can do up here is just the Spectacle Rock Cave item, which was the no, that wasn't what was in Spectacle Rock Cave?
I'm trying to remember where.
Didn't Yoshi get it?
I think Christos was the one up here earlier, I thought.
Oh, so this is the second trip up.
yeah, he did this trip already. Because the Bombos was inside Spectacle Rock.
Okay, I just got thrown off that he didn't rescue the old man on the first trip up. That's typical play, so it confused me a little bit. My apologies, chat. Thanks for updating me.
No problem at all, as we are starting to see some hammer blind strats. Very scary fight. The hammer hitbox does not work that great for this. Taking a lot of damage, but he does have Cane of Burna, so is able to kind of use this to finish off the fight just fine. Just wanted to get a few hits in first.
Yoshi is just being awesome about this fight. He struggles with the hammer and just spins around sillily with the Kinaburna. Makes it so easy and gets the Titan's mitts. Wow.
Wow.
2 gloves to 0 lead, at least for another 30 seconds.
Yeah, Christos does see the first glove upgrade, going to make his way there. Unfortunately, like Yoshi, though, did not have enough rupees to pick up the Zora item, so we'll have to bypass that for now. And this seed has not been paying off very much with money right now.
No, pun intended, I'm sure, but yeah, those mitts are a great location. Obviously, it's the French vanilla mitts being Thieves Town, but this also lets Yoshi do hammer pegs, pick up the smith, do D-game, get back up here, all the things that you want to do in this area. So it's a great spot for mitts to be.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's going to just give him so many more opportunities to just check around the Dark World, even get back to the Dark World, because now in the Light World he can just flute to the Kakariko spot and just go straight up without going around that Lost Woods loop. So definitely a very helpful item to find.
Absolutely. Christos, getting his Dark World access, uses those mitts to lift the rock for a bomb check as the very first thing. And the second thing is Dark World access. So he's probably going to follow in Yoshi's footsteps for at least a hype cave, but I don't expect Christos to go all the way to Catfish. That doesn't seem to be a play that fits his game style.
We'll have to see anyway. Yoshi... Oh, well, there's one of our 300s on old Stumpy in the woods here. Oh, and there was another one in Hype Cave. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, so we're definitely good on money at this point. Maybe another 100 rupees or so, and we should have enough for everything. And Christos is going westward, so he's going to do Stumpy first and end a digging game. Without those Titans mitts, he's not going to be able to continue north into Kakariko. Going to have to do a save and quit. It's kind of a standard route here, so definitely no harm done.
Yeah, it's definitely of the mindset of if you can find the mitts on your way to that location, you can just very easily lift up the rock and continue as you normally would. I will admit, I did not see what that Mire medallion was, so if you saw it, go ahead and reveal that.
No, and I even missed it on the restream too, but fortunately we have a very attentive tracker and chat, and they say it is Ether.
And we also do get our first sword upgrade inside the Mire shed as well, so in addition to that knowledge of what medallion we'll need for potential finish, we also get a sword too.
Sword is a pretty important item because despite having medallions, we can't actually use them without having a sword. Even the fighter sword will get the job done. So once Yoshi picks up that Bombos medallion, if he really wants to, he could go do Ice Palace.
And this is the part of, especially for this version of the logic, where I'd be like, okay, yeah, Ice Palace is where you're going to go, because it's just setting up things so perfectly for that to be the next play. Because you have flippers, you have mitts, you have a fire source or something to cast fire magic, and you have the hook shot on top of that. Everything in Ice Palace is within logic right now.
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, at least in the early game, the mid game, you want to prioritize crystal dungeons you can fully complete. So for Yoshi, that's Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace still. Those are great options to be fully clearable. Beyond that, it's Ice Palace. He's already done Thieves Town. If you can get 4 crystals and the items in those dungeons without spending any time on overworld checks, that's great value.
Oh, yeah, for sure, definitely.
Now, Christos, having done the southern route, not getting those Titans mitts, is re-entering the Dark World at Kakariko, assuming that he goes for that red Crystal Thieves Town, which would be the obvious play. He'll also be picking up those mitts and opening up a lot of extra progression options.
Mm-hmm. And as far as Yoshi, I think one thing that he's really going to be kind of looking for, like the next big item he really wants to find, is he wants to find that mirror. Because as you mentioned before, he's definitely seems to be a proponent of going to Eastern first, trying to clear that out. But with just the way the items have kind of laid out in this seed, this would be the perfect time to do like an Eastern pod combo in one swoop. And that's probably what he's thinking right now. Just going to try to bring out that mirror and see if he can, kind of get the 2 dungeons done at the same time.
Yeah, that would definitely be optimal. Yoshi having those mitts is going to be able to do 6 additional checks over here on the Dark Death Mountain. So there's quite a few items over here, and we can also find out, of course, what the Turtle Rock Medallion is. Given the fact that we have the flute, however, the doing Eastern and Pod separately isn't the end of the world. One thing that a lot of runners, not at this level, but definitely beginning runners tend to do is try to over-optimize a route and end up missing out on some key progression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is definitely a concern for sure. It's just kind of working in Yoshi's favor at this point where, you have all these very high-density checks you can make. And I'm sure he has another plan kind of in place in case he doesn't find the mirror, so... He's looking pretty good right now.
I'm sorry, Kirby.
I was just saying, but I was just following up by he's looking pretty good right now. But go right ahead, man.
I was just saying that this is the first chance that we've had to see any East Death Mountain, light or dark, because Christos didn't have the hook shot on either of his trips up here, and the cape opens up the bumper ledge item. So we haven't seen any of the northern route. Bumper ledge, graveyard ledge from either runner, which makes sense not having the cape or the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a progression item. So just as a general recap, 30 minutes in, I think we've seen Christos check just more overworld locations. We've seen like the front of us gate checks. We've seen a couple extra trips up to Death Mountain, but I think Yoshi's probably had more optimal routing so far. Definitely seems to be ahead a little bit on the logic.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yoshi's routing has been pretty superb for this seed so far, and it's going to be Christos definitely has some ground to kind of cover here after he gets done with Thieves Town. But we are still just kind of looking for a couple of things. I mean, there's not really too many dungeons we can even complete right now. Like, we don't even have knowledge if we can even complete like Desert, because we don't know about boots, or we don't even have a fire source yet either. So a lot of things can definitely still happen, but the routing is definitely just working out very well for Yoshi so far.
Absolutely, and we know that the silver arrows are in the library, so logically they're boots locked. But if no runners, if we find the boots in Ganon's Tower, for example, we're not going to backtrack to get those silvers. So we don't know for sure that we're going to have to get the boots to be in go mode. At this point, we're really looking for any fire source will do, the mirror for Swamp Palace access, and the cane for Misery Mire.
Yeah, that seems about it at this point.
Of course, Ether
and
as well.
Ether as well.
It's so easy to forget the medallions.
But yeah, we did get the information for... Oh, there. Well, we found their fire source, Fire Rod, inside Hookshot Cave.
Interesting find. I think that if you're one of these runners, you'd probably rather have the lamp in this particular seed than the fire rod. Given that the fire rod opens up things you might want to avoid, but it's still a nice item to have regardless.
Yeah, I'd probably echo those sentiments as well.
That does give you a second access into Ice Palace now, and you have Fighter Sword, you have Green Mail, you have a medium amount of health. It can be tempting to not want to go there, but the game doesn't really care about difficulty. Once an location is available, the game expects you to be able to do it.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that. Anyway, from Spike Cave, just pick up 3 bombs, nothing of substance there.
And unfortunately, without the mirror, Yoshi has to, for now anyway, orphan that ether tablet. Just no way to get back there efficiently.
And because Tower of Hera is one of our pendants, was definitely not really wanting to prioritize that when he was going up the light side of the mountain anyway, so I can definitely understand wanting to put that on hold, at least for right now anyway.
Christos showing off nice execution, doing the entirety of the blind fight with just the hammer, rather than only phase 1. While Yoshi picks up his Master Sword, 2 swords for Yoshi, 0 for Christos.
Someday, Christos, someday you'll get your sword.
This is definitely an inverse of yesterday's seed, where Yoshi went almost the entire game. Well, actually, the entire game up until Ganon's Tower with just a fighter sword, and it was death after death, potion after potion, very difficult boss fights. Very happy to have Master Sword already.
And still, like you were kind of mentioning earlier about silvers, and runners probably not going to want to go after those if they find the boots in Ganon's Tower. I'd almost make the argument that if we don't get another sword, and if we do find the boots in a very late game position, honestly, taking some time to get those silvers, I think would be a good call, because it's just so much faster than the 24 spins of Doom you'd have to do in a Master Sword silverless fight.
I think that's actually a really insightful point, because if you found the boots in Ganon's Tower, you would already have the mirror, because you would have completed Swamp Palace. So to mirror, flute over, pick up the boots would actually be a pretty quick thing to do at that point in time, and a heads-up runner might definitely make that play. That's a good suggestion.
And as we kind of made that call earlier, Ice Palace is in the mind of Yoshi right now. As we said, it's a crystal dungeon. It's fully completable. All the items can be gotten. Definitely seems to be a good call right now, with especially the specific item set that this dungeon normally requires.
Yeah, and first chest there being a bug net. So we're looking forward to determine whether this is a hookshot locked dungeon. Is the big key in these first 3 chests, or a certain combination of small keys. It just gives us some indication of logic when we don't have the hookshot, but because we have the hookshot, we don't care, and we don't care how many small keys we get. The only thing that we can possibly learn from this is if it's Mario locked, and once again, because ice doesn't block anything, we don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things for newer runners who are trying to learn the game still, and what the randomizer can throw at you. These guys are pros. They know how to get through this dungeon without needing certain items, so they can figure out, and they can more than likely full clear it without really concerning themselves with that.
Yeah, Christos is making his way through Death Mountain, still continuing to follow in Yoshi's footsteps pretty well. Having still only skipped a few different checks. No pyramid, no catfish, done back of escape, things like that. Sorry, done front of escape. Most of their route has been Christos following Yoshi, and I think the only thing that Christos really has completed of significance is that Eastern Crystal.
Yeah, and that's really a dungeon that does not take very long. So, it's not a super significant, advantage he has. But, it is definitely something. It is one less dungeon he'll have to complete when they're kind of rushing through their remaining Go Mode crystals, if it does come down to that. But another thing Christos hasn't done is he hasn't gone to the mire area yet either. So as you said before, he is still without a sword. And even dungeons like Ice Palace, there can be a lot of differences in certain fights that could make that sword disadvantage kind of significant.
Yeah, I expect he might check the Mire shed as his next location, just at least to find out what the Mire medallion is. Ideally, we would have go mode Canis Samaria, and that would just tell us that we don't have to go into Turtle Rock at all. That would really be the best case scenario for the runners.
That would be the dream, but sometimes Randomizer doesn't really follow those dreams, as we all know. Honestly, even getting the mirror as a go mode, I think, would be good too, because that's another item that opens up just a lot of weird one-off locations, and you don't really want to go through kind of checking them all. You'd also have the pleasure of knowing that's a swamp you could full clear in one go and just not worry about getting all the other items. Just go straight through and go mode the dungeon.
Absolutely. And Christos decided to go to Palace of Darkness to kind of finish up that Eastern pod combo play. I really like this because we get all of the items out of pod as well as the crystal, and it's something we can full clear. It's the same approach that Yoshi's doing with Ice Palace. It's something you can full clear, you can get all the items out of. I really expect Yoshi, if he doesn't find the mirror here, he's just going to have to commit to doing Eastern and pod separately, because those are the next logical places to go.
Anyway, Yoshi's starting the Cold Stare fight, gonna use the Bombos medallion to start things off, get the ice shell melted immediately, gonna do some sword spins here, switch over the fire rod, so if any puffs get away, can just use that potential splash damage to just kind of really wreck this fight, and very nicely done.
That was a super nice fight. That's the difference between Half Magic and Fire Rod versus his fight yesterday with the Fighter Sword and the Hammer.
Yeah, miles different for sure.
So I just wanted to take a second and answer a couple questions from chat. This is the second attempt at Game 2 between Christos and Yoshi. They did play yesterday, but it was a tied game. Yoshi won Game 1, and then they tied Game 2. So this is still an elimination match for Christos. If Christos wins, we'll see a official Game 3, actual Game 4, and if Yoshi wins, he'll be proceeding to the top 16 with a Christos elimination. As far as settings are concerned, we are using the same settings that we've used for Games 1 and 2. The default tournament settings of open mode, all 7 crystals, defeat Ganon.
Yeah, we are redoing the game, but that does not mean that Christos gets to redo his choice. He still has to stick with whatever he decided for the initial Game 2.
And he decided by not deciding at all, keeping everything the same.
Well, I mean, that might be to his strengths. He might feel like there's some value in keeping with these settings. Maybe he's had a good history of winning Game 1s, so that's why he kind of decided to stick with that.
So this is interesting. We have our first look at the desert area on Yoshi's side, and this is an incredibly painful experience to watch. Anytime a runner does desert without the boots, his desert was made as the boots training zone. But we found the small key and the big key not on the torch, so he will be able to complete this crystal, and we'll at least see what the item on the torch is to tell us whether we need the boots or not. This is a really, really good play for Yoshi.
Yeah, you always breathe a sign of relief when you see that the boots are not going to be required for this dungeon. But of course, in the back of your mind, you always think that, well, they could be required for Ganon's Tower's torch. So, not out of the woods yet, but definitely more comforting than what it could have been, I guess.
Well, with Dungeon trapped there on the torch, this makes between Christos and Yoshi 5 crystals that they can fully clear with the items that they currently have. So it comes down to just Misery Mire and Swamp Palace as still being locked out. Misery Mire by the Cane of Samaria and the Ether Medallion. The Cane of Samaria, of course, can be in Mire, and Swamp Palace being locked out by the Mirror.
Which can only mean that the mirror is going to be in Misery Mire and the Cane of Samari is in Swamp because Randomizer does not like us for some reason.
Yeah, that would be a Misery Mire double. So how would that? So you go to Mire, you get the cane. Sorry, you get the mirror, then you go to Swamp, then you get back to Mire.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
that's
need.
definitely what I was going for with that. Yes.
Oh, so we need Ether to show up for that. So Ether's going to be in Tower of Hera, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. or on Zora because both of our runners couldn't get that early when they wanted to.
That would be fun. We're only 43 minutes in now. It's not quite time to come up with what's the trolliest location possible yet.
I disagree. I think there's all the time for that.
Both players are showing us some new content. So we haven't seen Pod, we haven't seen the Landmo. Once they start repeating themselves, I'll be down for some. How can we make this hurt?
Okay, fine.
Landmo, super easy fight with a fire rod, 2 shots per kill.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting about finding that there was the map on the torch there is assuming that we don't care about the silvers and we're not going to go back to the library, and that the Ganon's Tower big key isn't on the torch. That essentially means that we don't care where the boots are beyond just the convenience of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like silvers would be nice, but if the boots are just kind of locked away in the most inconvenient location ever, yeah, you probably do not want to go back and get those or find those. So, definitely feel pretty secure about not really having them. The runners probably hate it because they can't go fast with them, but to me, it's like if the boots are not going to give them to you, then they're not going to give them to you.
But one thing I want to point out, and I didn't notice this while it was happening, but Zelda just mentions this in chat, and it's a really good thing to point out to everybody listening. Christos did the pod dark maze without the sword, and that's something that people practice with a sword beams as a guide, and not having that is very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do the maze. I just assumed he did. All right, well, if he goes back in, then he does it, then it will be impressive. Gonna delay my appreciation of Christos because I was watching Desert. Sorry, guys.
And yeah, he as chat's saying, he does also have the boomerang too. So he has some things he can use to at least kind of work his way around and find his way through.
I really like to see. So Christos has gone back and get all the items, which is the smart play here, and I really like to see Yoshi also in pod. I think he might have been putting off the pod Eastern like you mentioned, which definitely makes sense. He's at the point now though where he has 3 crystals, and these are 2 more just sitting here that he has to make this play, and he's doing it. It's the smart play. We know it's going to pay off as far as crystals are concerned and time is concerned. So I'm really glad to see Yoshi here.
And it's not all bad if he finds the mirror in here. Like, he can still essentially do what he wanted to do. Just, got the item a bit later than he was wanting.
That's a good point. We have 1 item remaining here in the Dark Maze that Christos is going to show us. One's the compass, and then 1 is the item, and that was...
Christos has a sword.
Something. Oh, he got a sword. Okay, I couldn't know what that was.
Yep. I saw a sword icon down there, so I think he found one.
It figures. Give him all that praise of navigating the dark maze without a sword, and then he just hammer jumps over and he picks up the sword in the first chest.
Well, I mean, he used the bow pretty effectively. I think that was kind of neat. He used the bow to kind of find his way through, which is not a weapon I would think about using myself, so... it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that Christos could have gone through the Dark Maze without the sword if he wanted to. We'll just leave that out there.
Yeah, that we'll stick with that.
So that is going to be the Tempered Sword for Yoshi, which is definitely going to make him not care at all about picking up those silver arrows unless they're literally in his path. Somehow he routes that back in. Christos, we're still with Fighter Sword for a little while. But he is following in Yoshi's footsteps and vice versa, picking up the crystals they need at this point. So we have to start speculating now. And I know you've been looking forward to this, Kirby. Where could certain items be? Where's the mirror? Where's the cane?
Well, they can be in that very fun scenario I mentioned earlier, for sure. We know Cane can't be in Turtle Rock, can't do anything in there until we get that cane of Samaria, so probably not going to be really valuing that as a check until they get the cane, and maybe Mirror could be there, so going to be ignoring that for a while. I honestly think maybe dipping Mire at this point. Oh wait, no, never mind, they can't do that. Jeez. I don't know what they'll do.
Well, we could get 2 items in the Tower of Hera, as well as the Ether Tablet. That's 3 items in not... If we had the mirror, I'd say that would be a quick check, but given that we have to go all the way around to get there, it's not that great. We haven't seen Purple Chest or Bomb... We haven't seen Purple Chest, I don't think. And obviously no Bombos without the mirror. What's our 5... And we can't 5-6 crystals Mire, so that's not going to have anything. Well, this is kind of tough.
We got the Zora. We got Zora, as we mentioned before. There's still a 500 rupee purchase that's still on the table. Powder, yeah, we haven't seen Powder yet, which is interesting. But they've been focused on crystal dungeons, so it's understandable.
Yeah, Yoshi did Catfish. Christos hasn't done that. The boost locations are obviously not available to us. Powder would be a quick turn in, and especially if we did Powder and then maybe did Purple Chest. You could do Purple Chest and then flute over. That wouldn't be that bad. Save and quit.
Yeah, I think the play at this point is maybe focus on kind of those overworld checks, because due to the inconvenience of not having the mirror, it's kind of good to try to combine the blacksmith and purple chest stuff with other things you can do. So yeah, kind of grabbing the dwarf and checking the magic bat location, that would be a good thing to do while you're kind of dropping them off again. So that's probably the best thing they could do at this point.
Did we see either of the players check any locations in Skullwoods?
I don't think we did. So yeah, Skull Woods I think is definitely on the table too, and that's also our green pendant as well.
That would be an interesting play with 3 items that you can get to pretty quickly. Wouldn't be the worst option at this point. And I mean, unfortunately, without the mirror, you can't route a pedestal check in with that. But still, 3 items is 3 items.
Yeah, for sure, and especially with Skull Woods, which I've always kind of seen as just kind of a giant overworld location with just how that dungeon's laid out. It's one of the first things I normally check when I go to Dark World, and I know in the past Christos has definitely kind of valued the early Skull Woods check in previous versions of Logic. Maybe he doesn't really see the value of that so much anymore, but could be something he's thinking about in the back of his mind.
Yeah, I've seen Christos head up there. I think maybe with Red Crystal Thieves Down, that just kind of drove him down into the village a little bit earlier, and then picking up the mitts might have diverted him to do the mitts locations. So yeah, that seems to be a pretty decent option, and the Fire Rod will guarantee that we can get all of the items if we need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It is really unfortunate what you mentioned earlier about just kind of the situation of Tower of Hera being a pendant, and that is 3 items up there with the Ether Tablet check, but you have to take such a long roundabout way just to get up there again, and both of our runners have climbed up that mountain, or at least Christos anyway, multiple times already, so just not something you really want to look forward to doing again because it's such a time sink sometimes.
Yeah, the issue is both of the players, their first time they were able to get East Death Mountain access, they had both the mitts. When they got the hookshot, they also had the mitts. So in order for them to have done Hera in the Ether Tablet, they would have had to go up the mountain in Light World, all the way over to Hera, and then all the way back to do the Dark Death Mountain stuff. And both players opted just to focus on the 6 Dark Death Mountain items. Makes a lot of sense, but it's it's hard to get back to Hera. You have to go all the way around.
Definitely. And had a kind of a scary cold stare fight there for Christos. Not much health, but did manage to pull it off and made it work. So GG to him on cleaning that up.
Yeah, the double beep speed makes every fight seem scarier than
it does.
And nice job on Yoshi on getting through the dark maze there. That is, he gets his tempered sword, and Christos finally does the dig spot and gets his master sword.
Hey, Yoshi. Okay, it looks like Yoshi is heading back to the village, so this could be that Skull Woods dip we were talking about, amongst some of the other stuff we can take care of in this area.
The other sword was Mire Shed, wasn't it?
Yes, and I think it's pretty likely Christos will get that whenever he goes to the Mire area.
I'm a little surprised that he did while he's doing desert, so hopefully he'll check Mire immediately after doing desert. This seed is a great example of how much having the mirror early makes a difference in routing. If mirror is your go mode item, you can skip skull. That's nice and all, but most players would definitely prefer to have it early. Just be able to not risk orphaning these mirror locations and just get everything done more conveniently.
Yeah, it's as I always say. I'd rather get the mirror early or not at all, if possible.
Yeah, I say the same thing. Early or never. The last thing you want to have to do is go back to recomplete a Thieves Town. A Turtle Rock you've already cleared just to get Mimic Cave.
Exactly.
That's one thing that I really like about the version 31 change with progressive bows, is that it's much less likely you have to make insane plays like that for the only bow in the game. It's much better to, orphan silvers somewhere you're never going to get than orphan the only bow.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. So yeah, Yoshi going straight back to the end of Skull Woods, finishing this verse. Don't need to really get any dungeon items aside from one small key along the way. And there's one very, very conveniently in a pot. So gonna take care of this first, see if we can maybe pull some items back here and skip checking the front. But if not, I mean, we need to come back here anyway, so why not start here?
And now, neither runner, Chet's pointing out repeatedly throughout this race that neither player has checked Zora yet, and that's been a location that's been open since almost the very beginning, since we got the flippers so soon. And I hope we're not in a situation where both players are saying, if the item was on Zora, I already lost because my opponent got it. It's good thinking when that's actually true, but when both people think that, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also interesting that I don't feel like we've really even broken the logic that much in this seed. I mean, we had an early flute, so Death Mountain was pretty quick to kind of clear out regardless. And there hasn't really been much block behind lamp required dark rooms. So, both runners have managed to stay in the logic pretty well. And yeah, since they have been, that Zora check is definitely, I think, kind of in the back of their minds, kind of getting closer to the front of their minds each time they check something and just do not find what they're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, there's a can of Samarias. That's one of the somethings we were looking for.
Now, unfortunately, that's of the 3 items we need. That's probably the one you least wanted to find. because that just means, oh hey, Turtle Rock is fully completable now.
Yeah, obviously there's a downside to that, but that does let Yoshi. Well, we still don't have Ether for Misery Mire, so we can't even do that.
Yeah, exactly. Because both Mirror and Ether could be in Turtle Rock, so you're pretty much forced to make that play now.
Well, I think that's not going to hurt them too much if they do decide to do
No.
that, because it's such such an obvious play that both players are probably going to do it, and if it ends up having garbage, they'll both have wasted the same amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. And here we are, Christos getting his tempered sword, so they are both on equal swords in the seed now.
Yeah, I think the only item that I can think of that we've seen that has been hard locked behind the lamp is one of the swords that was in the Pod Dark Maze. Everything else has had torches or has been garbage, and that wasn't a required sword even.
Oh yeah, I guess Christos hasn't checked the back of Escape yet, so I'm gonna take care of that now while he's in the area. Yoshi gonna be checking out what is up here on Bumper Ledge, which I don't think we've seen from either runner, and it's just a heart container.
Yeah, Christos went a long time without getting the gloves, so the back of Escape check, by the time he got the gloves, I think he already had the Hammer on Pearl, and Dark World was a much more appealing option. Yoshi is committing to that Skull Woods play, following through on is this leading me to more progression? I was gonna say checking the green pendant, but probably checking Eastern then the green pendant would definitely make more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean it definitely makes sense because he probably has the feeling that he is going to be kind of hitting go mode, or at least kind of getting to that point where he's going to be led to go mode through the Turtle Rock dip. So kind of figures, well, let me just go ahead and take care of this crystal dungeon. I'll check green pendant, which is could be an out of the way check since I'd never be coming back here otherwise. So if that does end up being something, then maybe I find the final item in Turtle Rock and then just can go mode everything else. So that's probably what he's thinking here.
Absolutely, and for better or for worse, Christos is following the same route, doing Skull Woods. So presumably, this is going to get him his can of Samaria as well. He's already done Eastern, so he might not immediately turn that green and pendant in, and might just say, "I'm going to dive Turtle Rock immediately," or check Tower of Hera, one of the other choices we haven't seen yet. But regardless, he's still following Yoshi's footsteps for the most part.
And if anything, I'd almost say that this actually kind of makes this kind of a bit of a race again. I mean, it's always been a race, don't get me wrong, but Christos was kind of behind by a dungeon this entire time. He did have like an extra crystal because he did Eastern so long, but Yoshi was kind of a dungeon ahead in the progression of things. But now since Yoshi's taking care of something Christos already did, Christos will have the opportunity to just go straight to Turtle Rock and kind of get a head start here. So definitely looking pretty good for him, and it'll be pretty close after these two dungeon clears.
Yeah, they still have a few different overworld items, one-offs that one's checked and the other hasn't. But I mean, we're talking a minute or so of total net time at the moment, and they're both garbage. So once we come out of these dungeons, I'd say that they are pretty much in sync. And if they simply follow in each other's footsteps and do the exact same things, that might favor Christos purely on execution. If we get a divergence, then it's going to go to whoever just gets lucky and finds the right item.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, you have to think about, again, the race from yesterday. Like, it was probably about this difference when they found their go mode items. So yeah, like this is going to be pretty exciting the whole way through the rest of this.
Yeah, yesterday, I mean, Yoshi had us. It seemed like Christos had an advantage for most of the race, and Yoshi ended up pulling ahead, and definitely was in the lead going into GT, and Christos just clawed it back screen by screen. I mean, the nice thing for Yoshi is even if he loses this race, he already won the first race, so he has no risk of elimination. That helps a lot with the anxiety.
Definitely. Oh, and Christos is saving and quitting immediately after finding that cane of Samari. I think he wants to go straight to Turtle Rock with that find.
Well, we've seen the rest of the items in Skull Woods, and we know that that is the right play to make.
So yeah, I'm tempted to say advantage Christos right now, just because he's making this play first, but definitely not going to count iiYoshii out. Like if we find the mirror in Turtle Rock, that's going to open a multitude of locations of where that Ether Medallion could end up being. So that's going to be definitely something to still kind of consider in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we find nothing, Christos has to go back to Skull Woods and check that, or go back to Catfish and check those locations. Yoshi's going to be calling back that time. But if everything lines up from here on out and we hit Go Mode, then it's really hard to catch up with a Go Mode Christos.
Definitely.
He did get Dead Rock though, so we get the.
Everyone gets Dead Rocked. I can't hold that against him.
It's always frustrating in a speed run just to have to stand still for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I know. And like you can't always try to go like a little off screen to maybe despawn them or respawn them in their normal form, but even that feels like that takes too much time, so it's never a good feeling.
Yeah, I do see a lot of people tend to screen transition back into the cave. I don't actually know if that makes a difference or not, or if it's just emotionally satisfying.
Unfortunately, Green Pendant turn-in did not lead to anything, just 3 bombs, but again, Yoshi had to check Eastern and get that done anyway, so not a big concern, and he is going to be heading straight to Turtle Rock as well. And yeah, Christos is getting started here, so let's see what we find in this dungeon.
Yeah, this is exciting. I don't blame Yoshi at all for turning that in when you're already that close. But he's up here. It's interesting. I was watching the VOD from yesterday's race, and I was watching the Ganon fight. I remember back a couple years ago to the application for commentator, and you had to provide an example of like hyping up a close Ganon fight. And I've never had a tie before, and all I could do was just like sit there in stunned disbelief.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly how could you not at that point? Like, it's just amazing watching these runners, and after such potential divergence that you have in these seeds, just having something that close is incredible.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to do hype when all you're feeling is suspense.
Yeah. So Yoshi is actually going to be doing something different first. He is going to be checking out the Ether Tablet and the 2 items in Tower of Hera, most likely. If this does end up being something, this could actually kind of swing the advantage back in Yoshi's favor a little bit. But Ether Tablet, just 20 rupees, so nothing there. And looks like he is going to be walking in Tower of Hera.
Well, this is an interesting choice because you have... I mean, there's no way for Christos to check those locations after Turtle Rock. We still don't have the mirror, so we have to go all the way around again. Yoshi can at least do Turtle Rock after this pretty quickly. And you reach a point in every race when you're in these heads-up races where you just have to try something, gamble on something, and hope it pays off. And Hera might be Yoshi's play for this match.
Yeah, it's something we were kind of talking about earlier. Like, he does have a match buffer to work with here. So, if this does pay off, it's like, wow, okay, wow, I made this play. It worked out for me. I don't have to worry about game 3. But, if it doesn't pay out, it's like, okay, well, I tried it. I made the play. It is what it is. I still had a game up on him anyway, so I have another chance. So, he could be thinking that a play like this could potentially kind of come back and help him. But we do find the mirror inside the lava chest in TR, so we are just an Ether Medallion away from Go Mode now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yoshi also lost quite a bit of time, at least a minute there, with 5 or 6 Hera pod attempts. Just unfortunately, was missing the setup and is now losing a little bit more time in the basement as well. It's a shame when you see that, and then on the other side of your screen you find the mirror.
Mm-hmm. But who knows? We might find the either medallion or Hera still. But if it is, I mean, Christos does have the mirror now, so he can easily mirror to the light side of Death Mountain and take care of that relatively easily. So
Yeah, and also equally important, finding it before you do Mimic Cave.
oh yeah, it's definitely. There's the lamp.
Wow, that is a terrible location for a lamp to be. I mean, that is really deep in the seed for that lamp.
Yeah, it definitely. Oh my gosh, there it is. Christos found ether in the big chest of Turtle Rock. He is in go mode. He is going to start. He's actually going to be leaving right now to take care of his remaining dungeons, and I think he can't. No, he can't use that portal for return to TR, but still makes sense. You have to kind of go through Turtle Rock from the front, regardless, and you'd lose the portal anyway through doing Swamp. But yeah, Christos is going to be finishing up the 2 dungeons on the ground, then going back up for one final Death Mountain climb, so he can do TR and Ganon's Tower at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. But in between Swamp and Misery Mire, that portal would be toast, even if he did, jump down or find a way to save it. But yeah, that's definitely go mode for Christos, and like we were saying earlier, a go mode Christos, especially a go mode Christos with a significant lead, is really, 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 really tough to catch up with.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, thank you for correcting me, chat. He's not going to come back and do TR. It's a pendant. Why would he do that? I forgot about that.
So one thing I want to say, I mention this in every race I do, just for like educational purposes, and also as kind of a self-reminder type thing. When you're doing a race with 50 people, like a weekly, your strategy is very different than when you're doing a heads-up bracket race. It doesn't, a weekly race, you're probably going to route for efficiency. Get as many checks as you can in the least amount of time, because if you're 3rd place or 4th place, you still did really well. But in a bracket race, you have to make what we know to be bad choices, or in hindsight, and they're gambles in real time that don't pay off. And you make those choices knowing that if they pay off, you win. If they don't, you probably don't. And that's the nature of this particular game. So Yoshi doing Hera, that was a gamble, didn't pay off, but definitely not a bad choice based on where he was at.
Yeah, for sure. And like in any other seed, like that could have easily been the right solution. So it's, as you said earlier, like the randomizer doesn't care about convenience when they're placing items. If they can place an item in a certain spot, it can be in that spot, and that's kind of something I feel like people kind of forget about at times. Yeah, an item can be annoying to get to, but that doesn't necessarily make it trolly. That's just something that can happen with the randomizer.
Absolutely. We were saying that once they were converging coming out of Eastern and whichever dungeon and Skull, that it's probably going to come down to just whoever picks the right location. And one went to Turtle Rock, and one went to Hera, and one picked the right one, and one didn't.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm also glad you brought up the bracket one-on-one matches being different than group races, because there's a lot of truth to that. And I know that Christos himself does play a lot to his opponents. Like I've had him as an opponent before in Randomizer, and that's the kind of stuff he thinks about. He thinks about what runners will do, what they could potentially do, and kind of adapts his own playstyle for that seed around that. You could kind of see that in today's seed. He went to Eastern very early, something we were expecting Yoshi to do. But I almost feel like maybe he did that because he was expecting Yoshi to do that, and he didn't want to kind of have an item be left behind in the process.
Yeah, that's why I say that kind of as a reminder to myself too, because uh, a lot of times you'll see in chat, and I'm mentally thinking like, well, why didn't they do Catfish? There's no time other than now that's going to be quicker to get back to Catfish. But if you're in a race, never doing Catfish is the best option if you
Yeah,
can.
exactly.
And it's really tough to eliminate choices like that, and it takes a lot of conviction to your level of confidence that I don't have as a runner, but these guys definitely do.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of skill to do that. So once again, shout out to both of our runners for putting on a show today. It's been a lot of fun watching this race and seeing how Game 2B has really shaped up here. So yeah, with that, Christos has taken down Argus. He just has Vitreous and Misery Mire to go. Still have to find that big key in Mire, but hopefully it's not too bad to find that. And there is still, it's looking pretty good for Christos, but we can't forget there is also still a 1 in 22 probability that the boots can be required in the seed still. Most likely in Ganon's Tower at this point anyway, but could still essentially come up here.
That is a good point. And that's going to completely reset this back to anybody's game, because both of the runners are go moding all of these dungeons, and they're going to have to decide once again which go mode dungeon did I skip that I'm going to have to go back and revisit first. Fortunately,
Right.
Yoshi, though, found the mirror and is continuing on, knowing that he needs to keep looking for more items and is going to be rewarded with that Ether Medallion. That would have been really a shame if he went directly to Swamp.
Oh yeah, that would have not been good. So yeah, he knows that, and you still have Laser Bridge left. That's a lot of potential item possibilities right there. I feel like you almost kind of have to go on at this point.
Yeah, once he picks up the Zether, though, he's going to be in go mode, and only a few minutes behind. It's it's probably a few minutes too much, to be honest, but it's still very, very close.
So yeah, Christos opening the first chest, and Mire does find a small key. There is still a possibility for that fabulous go mode Mire setup, God Mire as it's often called. There is a big key right here. Nope, the map. We have to keep on looking.
That's kind of the opposite of a big key. At least it's a dungeon item. Still garbage.
Yeah.
So Ether for Yoshi, and he also decides to immediately exit the dungeon mirror and realizes that he is in fact in go mode, going to immediately do Swamp and then Mire as well. But Christos does have an entire Swamp and half a Mire lead at this point.
Mm-hmm. And it's always so tricky to figure out, once you see that the big key is not going to be in those first two chests in Mire, it's kind of, for me at least, it's kind of hard to justify, which chest do I check first? Do I check everything before that big key chest location? Do I go straight there just to get it over with and just to get both of the fire rooms out of the way? It's a tough call. Looks like, yep, he went back to grab that small key. I think he is going to be going to... No, okay, he's not. He's going to go to the right side. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, this is a convoluted and slow route if it doesn't pay off. Going left to get the key, going right to get the invisible chest, left and right. You lose quite a bit of time, but that is the big key. So, paid off this
the correct call. So, yeah, definitely. So yeah, with that, going to be heading straight to the boss.
So there's a few players with the players with the really, really low NMG times. Christos is definitely amongst that group. Once they hit go mode and they get to Ganon's Tower and they're basically just on autopilot, their gameplay completely shifts from the methodical thinking about where do I have to go next, what's the optimal route, to pure muscle memory, and you start to see the swag strats, the cane strats with Christos in particular, and it really becomes just a pure joy to watch.
It really does. Honestly, watching kind of the Ganon's Tower gauntlet and execution stuff is always a really, really cool part of any randomizer run for me, because you do see that. And there have been a lot of races, like, I've seen like 4 minutes of time be caught up from before, just with GT routing and execution alone. So it's a very, very important part of the run, and that is a part that, like you said, no major glitches and just vanilla game speedrunners really have down, because they've done that so many times, and they have that good muscle memory that they've developed through speedrunning the game.
Yeah, and Chet mentions that they don't have the boots, and that's a good point. That does throw off your patterns quite a bit, but you still get enough muscle memory that you can adapt for it, I think.
Oh, yeah. Like and I mean, not to just say that's exclusively a no major glitches runners mindset either. Like, even randomizer runners, because they have such different tools in every seed, and the top highly skilled runners can adapt themselves based on the items they have. If they have silvers, you might see those more. If you have half magic, like both of our runners do, you might see the fire rod more. So there's a lot of different things that can happen. There's also a lot of numbers being pushed in the chat right now, for sure, too. So if you want to go in and talk about that, go right ahead.
I'm I'm not a huge fan of this, so why don't you go ahead and do it?
Okay, well, here at Speed Gaming, we tend to play a little game, I guess just anywhere, not just Speed Gaming, but yeah, if you guys want to predict on what numbered location the Ganon's Tower Big Key is going to be, you'll probably see a lot of 3s in chat, because that's the torch location, and people want to see exciting races come down to items they can't get yet. But yeah, go ahead and pick a number what you think that Big Key is going to end up being, and we'll see if that ends up being the case.
Well, I'm going to use commentator's privilege and pick an entire room, and I'm going to say randomizer room.
Okay, I'll just say tile room to pick I don't know, just a different room.
That seems reasonable. We didn't spend quite as much time as you wanted earlier on what's the trolliest item location possible, so we got to make up for it with tile room key.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're not going to get boots, and if it's not going to be a big torch, a big key on the torch scenario, may as well just give him something else, I guess.
All right, I'm gonna change my vote then. I'm gonna side with Kirby, and let's get the tile room. Let's get the full GT castle clear.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of runners when this scenario's popped up. One of the first things they'll do is check the torch, because you want to get that information as soon as possible. Again, even if it happens to be on that torch, there's a lot of locations here in Ganon's Tower, so, possibility we'll find it here regardless. But, okay, no, Christos going to the right first, but that's also something pretty common. You usually check the torch third anyway, so not a big deal.
I think it was in the first chest yesterday, but I might be misremembering that. I do watch quite a few races. But having picked up the small key, we can go full right side, and he is skipping the tile room, so that is going to last location tile room if that is the big key.
Yep, that's pretty much what's going to happen at this point. Yeah, definitely.
I really feel sorry for chat, because we've had over an hour of what's on Zora, and we don't know yet. We got to wait till
maybe the boots were there the whole time.
I normally say that there's nobody in the game better than Christos with Samaria swag, but he's having a little bit of trouble with those Gibdos.
Yeah, it does make it through, though. Checking 4 more locations. Let's see, rupees. There it is! There's the big key. And oh, wow. And a gold sword on top of that.
Wow, yeah. Checking one more chest. You know it's not going to be the silvers. And you get the gold sword. The only other thing that could be really useful. What luck.
Honestly, I think what he was checking for right there, if anything, was a small key. Because, as you can see, he had to go to that next room to grab a small key. If he got one there, like, that'd be enough reason to mirror at that point.
That actually makes a lot more sense.
Because, yeah, at this point, while butter is nice, it's, it's not going to make up much time, if any, for the rest of this seed. Christos, I'm sure, can definitely get a 1-and-1 cycle with a tempered sword. He's got the experience and the skill to do that.
So Yoshi is just about to finish up his mire routing and pick up that big key, and then he'll be on his way down to Vitreous. Christos does gauntlet room number 1. And these
really
gauntlets...
nice.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You're probably saying the same thing I did.
Well, I was going to say the gauntlet rooms in particular are the ones where you have very specific boot strategies based off these movement patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, we just do not have those today.
Yeah, they definitely make a difference with the ice physics as well. Just being able to control your direction. Christos making a use of the alternate option of sword swings to get through that room very, very quickly.
And just using sword slash strats here, still gets it done in 2 cycles. Very nicely done. He is kind of low on magic, so probably didn't want to use too much of that. Also, again, don't want to, well, I guess wasting arrows does not really matter because he's not going to be using arrows anymore. But yeah, it just seemed like that was probably the best way and the fastest way to get rid of him at that point.
Yeah, I'd say with the gold sword too, it just does so much damage. It's just as fast as the fire rod shots.
Pretty much, yeah.
Another room where you really want to have the boots.
Yep. It's fine. I see these runners go way too fast all the time. It's may as well have them walk for a little bit.
So I think he had enough magic that he might have been able to get through that room without the magic refill, but definitely would have been risky. Oh. Come on, game.
Well, there they are. So much for me wanting them to walk for the rest of the scene. Not that there's really that many rooms to run through, I guess.
Maybe we'll, there's still hope for dash strats in Ganon's fight, which are pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. I will give them that.
It's about all the swag potential left in this game is the Ganon fight. Well, Yoshi is on his way up to the tower then, having picked up his 7th crystal. He'll be entering the tower probably around the time Christos finishes up.
Yeah, pretty much. Or at least finishes up this fight. And, he'll actually be a decent ways in the Ganon fight too, so yeah. This definitely has to be a good motivator for Christos, though, unfortunately after what happened in Game 1, just not able to kind of pick up those last items he needed, and then, clawing back in Game 2 to make it a tie and give him another chance, just to have a seed that he honestly has got to be feeling at least decently well about, but he knows his opponent. He knows his opponent has not taken a one-on-one loss in this tournament yet, so who's to real say about what he's feeling until we actually get to ask him that, if we do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm into the Ganon fight. It's only 6 slashes in each of these first 2 phases, so this is going to be super, super fast. There we go. Death Shreds, Death Shreds.
Yeah, putting those new shoes to work from the get-go.
So I think Christos does this on purpose, because I've seen him do this in a lot of races. Like, he loses health just to be at low health. I'm not even joking there. I'm actually saying I think he does this on purpose. Why else would you pick double beep speed?
He just loves us that much. Yeah, that's true. I mean, if they help him concentrate, like, I'm fine. More power to him.
Or maybe that's not double beep speed and he just has a heart rate monitor hooked up.
Oh. That's a little more concerning. That's not good enough. But we are in phase 4. Unfortunately, did not get the silverless spin there, but he did get the torch glitch, so this should be pretty simple for him all the way through.
He's going for triples on each of these using the fire rod. Unfortunately, freezes them. That loses you 2 shots. And this one could be a triple.
Yeah, this should be a pretty good triple opportunity right here.
That's bad positioning for the triple. Again, it's a little bit too high up there. You really need him to be a bit closer to the torch, or at least down the bottom. You got 1 more slash? Oh, 2 more slashes. There we go. Get our heart refill, please.
I don't think you get any rewards for the Ganon fight.
And get your GGs into chat, both for the completion of the beeping and for an official SRL time of 1 hour, 29 minutes, 29 seconds. Getting ChristosOwen a win on the board. GGs to Christos.
It took 2 game 2s to do it, but Christos gets the win. And I believe that is actually...
That we are joined by Christos in the chat here, and so you went from a loss in game 1 to a tie, which you said was, at least it wasn't a loss, to a win. So that's definitely good progression.
Oh, okay, we lost him, so he should be back momentarily. Maybe something wrong with his mic or something, or Discord at that as well.
I've had worse interviews.
Okay, I think he's back. Welcome. There he is.
Okay, you guys can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, sorry. Whenever I plug my headset in, when I already have Discord open, it doesn't seem to register my mic. Anyway, yeah, I've heard what you guys said, and yeah, it's been an interesting series so far. A loss, a tie, to a win. It's a pretty fun matchup so far.
I guess to kind of get things started here, how are you feeling kind of going in the early parts of the stage? Because, unfortunately with that first glove location, did kind of, and not having the rupees to even check the Zora, I imagine that kind of pushed you away from the Zora area for a while. So it was kind of going on there.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I made the decision to just do Hobo and then flute away and come back to do the rest of Zora's domain later when I had 500 rupees, so I could knock out King Zora at the same time. And every other check I did after that turned up nothing at all, I think. Maybe Sashra's Closet had Hammer? Was that there?
Yes.
Okay, so beat Eastern, that was good, like crystal progression, but like Escape and Desert and kind of anything else I checked didn't lead to anything. And then when I eventually went back to Zora's Domain without the rupees still, found the glove and was like, oh well, that's Dark World. Then yeah, I fell behind. It was kind of a bad start, slow start for me. Things picked up from that point though, but it was pretty much just a chain of follow the crystal for the most part, and like the denser quartz locations. So I figured that if Yoshi had got the glove before me, then chances are he would have been like following the same path, probably just a little bit ahead of me. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how that went. I feel like I played well through the mid game. Everything up until Ganon was pretty decent. Yeah, it was. If you gambled on Turtle Rock, then it wasn't too bad. Otherwise, there was a lot of places you could have wasted time. And I really hate a late mirror, especially with the pendant Hera. A late mirror is awful because it makes you either have to decide to do Hera early when you first have access to the mountain, or like delay it until super late, which can really punish you if something is there. I just decided not to do it at all. When I found Samaria and Swords, I was like, I'm just going to go straight to Turtle Rock. There's always something in Turtle Rock. I was still missing 2 things, and I was like, one of them has to be in there.
And sure enough, both of them were.
Yeah, both of them and the lamp. That was.
Oh yeah, and the lamp as well. My gosh.
Which was interesting. So it turns out I could have done Desert quicker, because you didn't need the book for Desert in the end. I could have done it faster with Mirror after, but I don't really. Like, I feel like it was a good decision at the time to try and complete the Crystal Desert and see if it was picked up or not at the time.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. But yeah, a couple things I definitely got from that what you mentioned. Definitely 2 of the things that's eventually led to your victory here. I'm not sure how much you've talked to Yoshi so far since, again, the 20-minute delay and everything. But honestly, I do think that early Eastern play did actually kind of help you a bit, because right after you got the Fire Rod, or not Fire Rod, the cane from Skullwoods, yeah, you did go straight up there. Yoshi still had to do Eastern, and because he had the green pendant, that kind of, led him to do that first. So because of that, that's how you kind of climbed back from kind of that slow start, so that kind of helped. And then Yoshi did decide to take that Hera dip, as you mentioned, over Turtle Rock to begin with, and just was kind of a bit delayed on getting the remaining 2 items, so that's ultimately how kind of this race went down.
Okay, that's interesting. I'd say that's definitely the safe option to make. Because if you go into Turtle Rock first, then you have to reclimb the mountain to get all the way back to Hera, if that's the answer, which is just even more time loss. So doing Hera before Turtle Rock definitely is the smarter strategy. I actually thought I would find Ether and then Mirror would be Sword. No, the other way around. I thought I'd find Mirror, and then I thought I'd finish Turtle Rock, find nothing, and then something would be in Swamp. And then I found Ether in Turtle Rock Big Cats. Okay, well, let's go. We're done.
Yeah, did definitely notice kind of like just a quick little involuntarily movement at that point. It's like, oh, okay, I'm in coma. Let's go.
Yeah, it's quite funny when it takes you by surprise like that.
Yeah, for sure.
It was an interesting seed, so I didn't have a sword for quite a while, so I enjoyed being swordless for a while, and also with the lamp's position, it meant a lot of dark rooms, which was fun. And so when I did pod Dark Maze, I paused to see what I got from the dark chest. I had no idea. I was like, okay, well, the other chest is a compass, let's just leave. And then I saved and quit to the mountain, and then when I called the flute, I just was like mashing buttons, and I swung a sword, and I was like, oh, I just got a sword. Amazing. Didn't even realize at the time.
Yeah, like I just saw that at the corner of my eye. I was like, oh, okay, well, I think he found a sword there, because yeah, there's a sword on his inventory now. So yeah, it's funny he didn't actually notice that.
The swords in particular were interesting because for in your race yesterday, Yoshi did almost the entire game with the fighter sword, and in this particular game, you were at an item disadvantage for most of the game. I mean, the later gloves, not having a sword for quite a long time, and then having a lesser sword for quite a long time. I'd say probably the big turnaround might have been deciding to go into Skullwoods rather than some more of the other overworld checks. I watched the races in the past. You've tended to do Skullwoods a little bit earlier, I think. Is that the case?
Maybe. I don't know if there's much consistency in the way I play. I found the Fire Rod on Death Mountain after finding mitts in thieves, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try and follow the. Well, I didn't have any good options, right? So I didn't have any beatable crystals. I had to choose between reclimbing the mountain for Hera, going into Skullwoods, couldn't access Total Rock, or it was just, like sporadic overworld checks. And I was like, what do I want to do? The fact that Skullwoods was a green pendant helped kind of take me there. And I don't know how true this is, but I've heard people say that Skullwoods is just like ever so slightly more likely to have progression than it should do. So since I heard that like 2 weeks ago, I've just been prioritizing Skullwoods a little bit more. And so far it's exactly 50-50 for working for me. but yeah, it's like it was a coin flip really.
Well, Yoshi did finish, so I want to just make sure everybody gets their GGs in. They've kind of beaten us to it a little bit. He does have an official time of 1 hour 36 minutes and 47 seconds. Not that bad a difference with the extra checks that were involved, and just based on the last couple races, I don't think Yoshi's going to join us for an interview because he hasn't the last couple. It probably would have joined by now, but definitely GG's.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very entertaining race to watch, and just interesting to see the different divergences involved, just because, there were a lot of almost kind of assumptions we had about how like this was going to go, like how each of the beginning checks would have been made, and kind of even played with our expectations a bit. So it was really fun to see how this went down. Two very, very remarkable runners in this tournament. This actually being, as I've stated before, this is iiYoshii's first group and bracket stage loss of the tournament, so has gone essentially undefeated until this point. So GG once again, Chris, for getting a win there.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. I've had the complete opposite. I've gone to game 3 in every single series so far. And this one game 4.
Maybe it's better that you didn't know he was undefeated.
That's awesome. Yeah, only other thing I can think of the steed was GT was pretty funny. I always like going right side if you get a key early. Paid off for me this time, and then got the butter sword, which was a nice little bonus. And then climbing GT. The only thing that could have helped speed up the last few rooms was boots, and the first chest I opened says GT has the boots. I was like, okay, wow, this is amazing. And like after that chest, there's just nothing else that could speed up. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm done with checks now. But I always do that. Like if I'm missing like a sword or boots or silvers or something, I always open the upstairs 4 chests, and usually there's just nothing there. So it was quite nice to see they're actually having something that I wanted for once. I mean, I would rather have had those boots in Link's house, but
oh, for sure,
yeah, definitely.
At least I found them in the end.
It was actually pretty funny because literally like 20 seconds before you found those, I was like, oh, we've seen these runners go fast all the time. We don't need to see boots. And of course, the next item is the freaking boots. So thanks a lot for that. But it's cool. It's cool. I know how good those boots are for you guys, so I understand.
I say this, I said this on the stream too, but watching your races in particular, Christos, I've been watching your races for several years now, and I think of all the runners, you have the best Samaria swag strats. Like block kicks and all these crazy places, and they're all dependent on the boots. So not having those is so disappointing.
Yeah, I got absolutely ambushed in the mummy room in GT. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I just got stuck in a little corner against 2 Gibdos, trying to toss the Samaria blocks over to the conveyor to hit the switch and hit the wrong buttons. Yeah, disaster. But yeah, like you said, needed the boots. My strats in those rooms rely on the boots. But thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. I love
no problem.
Samaria strats. They're some of the most fun.
We got the Ganon dash stretch, so there's a consolation prize for me anyway. You guys, I assume you'll probably be doing the same time tomorrow. Do you have that set up yet?
We haven't actually scheduled it yet. It won't be tomorrow, unfortunately. I'm busy tomorrow. So it'll probably be Monday or Tuesday, depending on if Yoshi's available on those days. But yeah, I'll give him a DM and we'll get that scheduled this evening for probably Monday or Tuesday.
Considering this is your game 4, not your game 3, I'm sure you guys can get a little bit extra time there. I definitely look forward to watching that. So I wish you luck, and I wish Yoshi luck. Getting to see both of you guys run any number of games is a treat for us viewers. So thank you for the excellent performance of Christos and Yoshi, and there are of course links in chat to follow both of those runners. Do you have any final thoughts, Christos?
Well, thank you guys for commentating and for the restreamers and trackers. Hope everyone enjoyed the race. From my point of view as playing the seed, it was nice to have a seed which was a bit smoother than like the last 6 I've done.
Oh my gosh.
So this was kind of a return to, air quotes, normal, so long as you gambled pendant to the rock. Yeah, so hopefully we get an even better jet seed tomorrow and early boots, so fingers crossed.
Well,
yeah. Don't remind me how awful those zero rush seeds were. I forgot about that almost.
So,
I tried to block it out my brain as well.
Definitely, early boot is always nice. So on that note, I'll say for myself, I'll thank the runners, of course, and our excellent tracker Icy for 2 races in a row, doing an excellent job tracking and keeping us honest. And it's been a pleasure to join Slim Kirby on Co-Coms. This was a great race. The last words can go to you, and that's it for me, Tiru.
And this has been Slim Kirby. Thank you for joining me in this as well, Tiru. It was a lot of fun calming this and calling this with you. Great race. Definitely, everyone in the chat, check out the schedule. Look out for that game, technically 4. Should be a very exciting game. Should be a lot of fun to watch, and should be just a really, really good conclusion. If that will be the conclusion, who knows with these two. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. There is a race coming up here shortly on this channel, Aussie 101 versus Yagamoth. Stick around if you want to watch that. That should be going live in a few minutes. So this has been Slim Kirby. See you guys next time.